This is John Connors, and this is The Power of the Tribe. Actually, it's Power of the Tribe. I'm going to do that again. Hi, this is John Connors, and you're listening to Power of the Tribe. So my name's John Connors. I'm the head instructor and founder of Connors Martial Arts Academy in Norwood, Mass. We teach Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Muay Thai kickboxing, mixed martial arts, and we help people with their personal growth and transformation. If you're looking to make a big positive change in your life, give us a call. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. Our website is connorsma.com. So just reach out to us and we'll help you reach your goals. So today we're talking to one of my longtime students, Chad Lightfoot. And as always, the theme of our podcast is the power of the tribe, how a tribe can help you in personal transformation. If you want to do something great with your life, finding the appropriate tribe is going to help you to do it. And I'm here with my co-host, Dan Robin.
Hey.
Chad, we haven't figured out Dan's nickname yet. I like Dr. Dan.
I could catch you up to speed on that. Okay. John wants to give me a nickname, and I do not want a nickname. I figure if you make it into your 40s without a nickname, then the ship is kind of sailed.
Being in my 40s, I would tend to agree.
Yeah. Have you had a nickname? You actually fought.
Yeah, I didn't have a nickname, though. No.
Yeah.
So, Chad, welcome to the podcast, Chad. Chad Lightfoot.
Thanks, Coach.
You don't have a fight name.
Nope, never had a fight name. We had a couple suggestions from my brothers and whatnot, and but nothing stuck.
I can imagine they were immature, moronic suggestions.
Absolutely, they were with my brothers, and I only had 2 fights, so it was a short fight career. So I didn't have a long time to come up with.
No, Chad,
doesn't your brother have a nickname actually?
Yeah.
What was Cody's nickname?
Yeah, Scrotum.
Cody Scrotum Lightfoot?
Yeah, just Scrotum Lightfoot.
Just Scrotum Lightfoot. That was his fight name.
No. That's just his name.
That's what they actually call each other, like at the dinner table.
Oh, yes. Right.
So you can imagine that Chad didn't want to get nicknames from his brothers.
Now, Chad, were you the first person to fight out of our camp?
Yes, I was the first pro fighter out of Connors. We did have one amateur fighter prior to me.
Now, what year was your first fight?
So my first fight was February 2009.
February 2009. Wow. Awesome.
And then the second one was November 2009.
And what were your thoughts leading up to that decision? How did you come to decide that you wanted to fight? That I
wanted to fight? Yeah, sure. So I've been training with the Connors tribe since April 2006. So it's been quite some time, and I had spent back then. I was training in the gym a good 5 days a week. My brother Scrotum was also training at another gym, and he had a wrestling background. I did not, but we would roll and fool around, and I started to see that I was making progress. Training 5 days a week, I felt that I got pretty good at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and at that time we also had Eric Armington come in teaching the Muay Thai classes, so I felt like I had some stand-up as well. So my brother had done a couple fights, and it was I just thought it was an amazing experience, and I'm like,
he won. Did he win his first 2 fights?
He did. Yeah. And after seeing that, we're super competitive in my household, so if my brother can do something, I can do it too. So that was the motivating factor. If he can do it, I can do it.
That's really interesting. You see that everywhere, that power of positive expectations. You know, the Dominican Republic, they have an amazing amount of players in Major League Baseball, and a part of that, a contributing factor, must be that young kids growing up there in that country think, I can make it to the majors. This is totally doable. And they end up doing it in large numbers. So I think that's super powerful. And that is a factor of the tribe. If somebody in your tribe can do something, you feel like, oh, I think I can do it as well.
And I think the reverse is true. That it's very powerful if you feel like you can't. You know, if you feel like no one like me ever fights, or no one like me.
I think if you feel like you can't, it's virtually impossible to do something.
But you can. If you join the tribe, you could change your mind about that. I think. You know what I mean?
I think
if you come in feeling like, look, I'm IT guy, and I guess you could talk more about that. But you're like, I didn't wrestle. I was in the band.
Yep.
You know,
So
like
Chad is an undefeated professional MMA fighter. Is
sure
that correct?
am. Yes, that is correct.
And 2-0, let's be honest, but still undefeated. But the start of your martial arts career, you were probably a self-proclaimed nerd, I would say, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I, in high school, I was in every band imaginable: concert band, marching band, jazz band, rock ensemble. I did all of those. I also happened to play baseball. I traded that in when I went to college for the computer. So I then went from being a band nerd to a computer nerd. So what happened was I decided to get into martial arts about the same time as I got adult braces, if you recall, Coach.
Right.
I had to do something tough to offset having braces as an adult.
And how old were you?
I was 29.
29 years old. You got your teeth look great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I forgot about that. You had braces.
I had braces.
That's really interesting. So you were trying to manage your identity. Mm-hmm. You're thinking, with these braces on, I'm just becoming even nerdier, even less masculine than I am. I have to counteract that. See, that's what I like about Chad. He has a lot of wisdom, man. He's very sharp at the way he does things. Some other people might not have done that. I think that's a brilliant move.
Yeah, I needed it for self-confidence, Coach.
That's awesome, man. And so you started you had braces, and you came in and you started your martial arts career.
I did, yep. I just got them.
And then they were off when you became a fighter, though.
Yeah, they were.
So how long do you have the braces? 2 years?
Yeah, it was about 2 years.
Wow.
When you started, Chad, I imagine you weren't thinking you were going to be in a cage fight, right? Like
Never.
You did not, right?
Never. No. When I first came in, started rolling with the guys, I never saw that. I never saw myself even doing any sort of stand-up. I was looking at it just as a way. I was overweight at the time. I was about 245 pounds. And I was looking at it as a way to, lose some weight, get into shape. And I was in a bad marriage at the time, so it was a really positive outlet that I could do and involve my kids. So that's something that's
right. That's awesome.
How I've been able to maintain doing this is I've been able to involve the whole family.
And so you started at 245. When you competed, I remember you competed at 205, right?
I fought in the cage at 205. I competed at Naga at 199.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big transformation. So you were smart. You were a little bit in crisis. You had the crisis of the braces, and you had the crisis of a bad marriage, and you said, I got to do something about this.
Sure did.
I think that is so cool. I had this idea that when a man faces a crisis, he can either respond with depression or aggression. And what I mean by aggression is activity. Get out there and really do something. And that sounds exactly what you did. You said, I'm going to plunge into this stuff and get after it.
I loved it. Couldn't get enough of it.
So what always fascinates me too is like, so you just described yourself at the time. You're like braces, IT guy, band nerd. Is that first walking through the door, like, of like a fight gym, you know, or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym or a boxing gym or any of these kinds of, or it could even just be lifting weights if you're not comfortable with that and you've never done it before. There's this feeling of like, I don't belong to this world, and I've never done this before. And I've always wondered, for me, the hardest part of starting was walking in the gym myself. Like, I didn't come in with a friend. I didn't come in with anyone's advice. I didn't know anybody.
Well, let's be honest, though. Our first gym was actually a yoga studio, so it had the nice, calm colors. You walked in, it wasn't exactly
I remember the ferns.
place.
Yeah, they were actual
It was
ferns.
the most beautiful, lovely martial arts gym you could ever go to.
So that part wasn't intimidating, but once you started rolling and stuff, absolutely, that could be intimidating.
Now, Chad, I remember you told me you had a bully story.
Yeah.
Could you tell us that story?
Sure. Yeah, so
were you in high school?
I was in high school. So I was bullied quite a bit in high school. Like I said, I was in various bands, but I was.
I mean, you weren't bullying somebody else.
No. I didn't bully anybody else. I got bullied a lot myself though, until one day I stood up to this bully. But yeah, it was somebody that I played baseball and basketball with, and we just happened to have the same position in basketball, same position in baseball. And this person wouldn't lay a hand on me himself, but he would send a group of people. So it was, even if I could fight back then, it was, I'd have 4 or 5 people.
So he was orchestrating 4 or 5 guys to come over and mess with you.
Yes.
Wow.
On a daily basis.
That's diabolical.
Yeah. So I'd go to baseball practice to get beat up, and
Wow.
I'd still go. I still went. And then one day I got sick of it. This went on for, I don't know, better part. It started in 8th grade, went into 9th grade. So better part of 2 years this was going on. And one day I was at baseball practice. I remember I had a baseball bat in my hand, and I just got beaten up. There was this kid, the one who was orchestrating, got involved. He was a pitcher as well, and he was chucking baseballs at me as hard as he could. It hurt. And some other kids had just got done giving me a beating. I picked up a bat. I went up to him, and I said, I don't care if you live or die. I am going to hit you with this bat as hard as I can, and you're never going to bully me again. And he never sent. That was the end of it. Right then and there. I meant it. And
you had conviction. You meant it.
I meant it.
You reached your limit. You weren't going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
Mercifully, it ended with no serious bloodshed. Holy cow!
I didn't have to swing the bat. I didn't have to. He knew.
That's some serious bullying. That's pretty awful. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that ends with school shootings. Sometimes it sounded so bad.
Yeah, it was a different time back then.
Yeah.
And school administration knew what was going on. The baseball coach knew what was going on. I wasn't getting the support I needed.
That's awful. That's unbelievable. What a failure as a coach to let anything remotely like that happen. That's despicable.
Yeah, I still remember seeing it as a kid too, where the coaches would sort of turn a blind eye to it. I almost think
that's what he was
it
doing.
was seen as like, let the kids, that's kid stuff. Like, that's not my concern. At least back then. I like to think that's changed.
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, that's just really bizarre. But you weathered through it. That's amazing. All by yourself.
All by myself, yeah.
See, that's the thing about Chad is we're talking about the power of the tribe, but I always recognize Chad is very much an individualist. And even though we're talking about tribe here, you kind of do things your own way and figure things out for yourself, which is very cool. To be a young person to figure that out, I mean, and I guess you had a little bit of luck that you didn't actually hit the guy, because then things could have went really bad for everybody, right? If you cracked him. But
yeah,
what a
it would
horrible.
have felt good though.
Yeah, what a horrible experience. So what happened after that? What was the aftermath when he stopped picking on you? What happened?
He stopped. Everybody stopped.
Everybody stopped.
Yeah, I was not bullied by any of those kids ever again after that. There was a short stint, probably about a month later, another bully stepped in. And I was like, oh, F no. This is not happening.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, immediately. And he was coming up to my house. So at least when I was getting bullied previously, it was typically at school. Home was typically safe.
Yeah.
This bully was dating a girl that lived on my street that I was friends with, and I think he didn't like the fact that I lived near his
He's threatened by
girlfriend.
you somehow.
So he felt threatened by me. So him and 4 of his buddies who were all older than me,
wow,
come up to my house, call me out to bullying. I brought the baseball bat out. I'm like, this is going to work. And it worked. So
it worked again.
It worked again, yeah. I'm like, this is not happening.
Now, after you stood up to the baseball bully, did you feel differently about yourself or the universe, or what happened?
Yeah, that actually, it's changed my life. Forever, really. I realized that I could overcome any obstacle, and honestly, that experience is partially what gave me the confidence to walk into a martial arts school for the first time. And yeah, I was scared, but I still do it. One thing I'm deathly afraid of, and more afraid of than going into a cage is public speaking. In college, I took public speaking 3 times. Paid to take the same class 3 times just because I absolutely hated it.
Why did you take it 3 times? You felt like you still needed to make more progress?
No, I just kept dropping it because I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. But it was a requirement to graduate.
Oh, so, I see. It took you 3 times to knuckle your way through it.
Yeah.
But so you made it. You made it through it.
I got through it. And now I speak for a living.
That's awesome. Well, I think you're a pretty good speaker, so I'm surprised. But I understand you're an introverted guy to begin with. So that can make it hard.
Yeah.
So you stood up to the bullies, you vanquished the bullies, you felt better about yourself, but you're always still working on yourself. So you got the braces, you're in the bad marriage.
Yep.
You go into the martial arts, immerse yourself into it. 3 years later, you realize, I got something here. I've mastered something. You know, my brother, the college wrestler, I can hang with him. And the professional fighter, I can hang with this guy. Huh, I could probably do this. That's very cool. Now, what I remember about you is that you challenge yourself. You have these goals and challenges, but you're strategic about it. You're smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just say, I want to fight the biggest and baddest person on the planet.
No.
You know?
No.
You set yourself up to win.
Yeah,
so
of course.
You can't have an easy fight, but you select your opponent where you got a good chance of fighting. There's a way for you to win, I mean.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. My first opponent that I fought was an 0-2 fighter, and he was a very good boxer. But I thought that I'd be able to out-wrestle him, get the fight to the ground, and
He was a big, strong guy.
Big, strong guy. He's in better
Could
shape
punch
than me.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my nose still isn't right after I've learned what it's like to fight a boxer. But if you look at that, both of us at the end of the fight, you know, my face was an absolute mess. He looked great because I used jiu-jitsu to beat him. But, you know, I still ended up, you know, persevering and winning that fight.
I remember you saying about that fight, you got hit right in the nose, and you said to yourself during the fight, I can't really take many more of those.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like if he hits me again like that, it's probably over.
Yeah.
You actually thought that during the fight?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. My nose was messed up. I got a big nose anyway. And then when I got hit right square in the nose. But what I did is I would just time it. You know, anytime he was going to throw he was hitting me with the cross. Anytime he was going to throw that, I shot for the double leg. And then once I figured out the timing of that, I was able to do it every time, and I didn't take any more damage to the face. But it took a little while to get there.
And I vaguely remember one of the reasons why you picked him as an opponent is because he looked so terrifying. He looked scary. So you're like, if I can beat this guy, it'll look impressive.
Yes.
And I think I can beat him. So it's perfect.
Exactly.
As opposed to fighting somebody who didn't look that good, but was actually really good.
Right.
So you would never take that fight.
Like the ideal opponent, right, is that ratio. You want the scariest looking for the least talent, like that you can get.
That's my style.
Right.
Yes.
The worst is like, and there's some guys in the gym like this that don't look that scary, but they're really talented.
Oh,
That's
right.
the worst.
But I think the lesson that people can take away from it is setting up your goals and your challenges so you have more opportunity to win. You know what I mean? So, in other words, if you joined a jiu-jitsu jam and one of the main goals was to lose weight, and you went in there, you joined the tribe, you got all the support, you started eating healthier, you worked out more. Even if you didn't lose weight, you would make new friends, you'd have positive relationships, you would master an art, you could get a lot out of it. So even if you really didn't lose that much weight, it wouldn't be a total loss. Where if you stayed home by yourself and you just restricted your eating and you try to lose weight and you failed at that, then it's just a win-loss. You could just come away with a loss from that. So I think you do a good job of setting yourself up where you're going to get some kind of win out of it, in one way or the other.
Absolutely. And as you're saying, the power of the tribe, some of what has kept me doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and maintaining a relationship with the folks in the Connors tribe is those friendships I've built throughout the years. So I would, you know, show up and train, but a lot of times we're staying after class because there's, you know, we might be talking about something personal.
Right.
You know, today, for example, we spent the last 15 minutes of class. We hadn't seen our friend Nick Fontecchio in quite some time. So
Right.
we're, you know, catching up and, you know, where the hell have you been? You know, and,
Yeah.
and figuring out. And I didn't know he had a kid, so makes sense.
And when you're going through a bad marriage or a divorce, if you have somebody who's a little bit distant from the situation, but you trust that person and they have your back and you can confide a little bit, that can be super helpful.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
to relieve stress or maybe even help you with your tactics or strategy of dealing with it. I think that's a huge help.
Yeah, that's a huge help, and honestly, the rolling and the training is stress relief in itself. You know, you leave exhausted. You're putting it all out there, and you're leaving it there. I'd always feel, no matter how bad my day was, I would leave the gym feeling good. You know, not only because of the training, but some of the conversations that I had with my friends to help.
It's almost like you cleanse your nervous system. You wring out all the knots out of your nervous system.
Exactly.
So when you leave, it's that good kind of tired. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Some of, just getting back to the power of the tribe, there's some key people, you know, at our gym that have really helped me through the years. Because early on, I was one of the, I think we said earlier, one of the OGs from our gym, because I'd been there for quite some time. But early on, I had a relationship, and I guess I had helped a lot of people that I didn't realize that I was helping. To me, it's just, I'm rolling with these people, and if I catch them in a submission, I want to show them what they did wrong so that they can improve and they get better and I get better as they're getting better, right? So I didn't realize that people took that to heart and really appreciated that as much as they do. I had taken a little bit of time off, and then I'd come back into the gym, and I was overweight again, and I was tired, you know, rolling with these people. And I had both Pedro and a couple other folks, actually, Marcelo, reach out to me and help get me back to where I needed to be to maintain, you know, the strong basics, right? And be able to roll with everybody. And I said, thank you. You know, they sought me out. They saw I was struggling and helped me get back to, you know, where I wanted to be. And they reminded me, they said, Chad, it's exactly what you were doing for us.
That's
you know,
great,
back
man.
in the day. And I didn't remember doing it. You know, I'm like, it's awesome. You know, it's great being part of something like that.
That's very cool, because they could have otherwise just used it as an opportunity to smash you and take a shot at you.
Yeah, I talk smack in the gym, so a lot of people do take the opportunity, would take advantage of something like that, but these guys did not.
But you know what I think about jiu-jitsu that's interesting? It is inherently a conflict. You're trying to strangle each other, you know, and I've realized over the years that you never really know what a person is about until you have some conflict with them. Like, anybody can smile at you and give you a little wave and, oh, they're perfectly nice. But when you have some conflict, that's what you're going to find out what they're all about, you know? If you and I are stranded on an island and there's one coconut left, how are you going to handle it? Chad is going to hit me over the head with a rock, eat me, and then have the coconut for dessert. But another person may split the coconut with me. So, and then jiu-jitsu is like a ritualized form of conflict. We're going to try to strangle each other, and let's see what happens, and how do we handle it? So if you choke me out, how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to emotionally respond to that? If you accidentally elbow me in the face, how am I going to deal with that? And I think you really get to know somebody. It's hard for somebody to hide who they really are if you train with them enough in jiu-jitsu.
And isn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's common that people can't get past step one, where they come in day one, they get choked out, they get, you know, maybe the stereotype is they look tough or they feel tough, and then sort of plain looking, maybe nerdy looking guys just destroy them, and then they never come back.
They don't come back. Yeah.
That it's like revealed that they revealed something in them.
Yeah. They had a different view of the universe, and they had to change their perception, their identity. Their self-identity was crushed by somebody. Back in the day, that happened much more often. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, you'd have some big, jacked, muscular guy come in and some 135-pound guy armbar him. And I witnessed this myself personally a couple times. And I see the guys pound the mat, stand up, storm out, and never to be seen from again, because he just couldn't wrap his head around this little guy armbarring him.
I came back, coach.
But I think that happens less now, because people see the UFC, so they understand there's a lot of technique involved, and they understand the power of jiu-jitsu, I think. So fewer people are getting their identity shattered that easily today. I mean, guys come in our gym, and they get tapped by Rebecca or Maria or some of these young women, and they deal with it. So I think it's less of that now. People understand that it's a science, it's a skill set, and it's powerful.
Right. And even way back when, I think a lot of us that were really, you know, back in the day, if we got dominated by someone that looked smaller, looked weaker, that piqued our interest, right? It was like, wow, this really works. Like,
Right.
it took a totally different tack on it. That was my feeling.
Right.
When I just got manhandled, I was like, wow, this is really good.
What was your experience, Chad? Your first jiu-jitsu class? Did you feel like the more experienced guys really had some knowledge that you didn't have?
It's so when I started, the gym was still fairly new, so
Right.
there wasn't you were the black belt, right?
Right.
So you and I believe Dan was there as well as black belts, but most of the other belts were white or blue belts when
Right.
I started. So I was a big dude, so I wasn't getting dominated, but I was getting beaten by my own lack of ability to breathe. You know, I would use too much energy. I didn't know, because I didn't know how to save my breath, save my energy for more important moves, and so that's what was beating me, not necessarily, you know, the opponents at the time.
And then you felt the skill when you went against your brother.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I have learned something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know Cody would never take it easy on you.
He'd
So
never take it easy on me. It
Yeah.
was my brother and Coach Jesse McElligott. We were gym, I don't know, what do you say, gym mates or gym
training partners. or
training
something?
partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would train together all the time, and that was great because he took an interest in learning a little bit extra from what we were learning in the lesson. And I was never that student.
Who's that?
Jesse McElligott.
Jesse. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would never go on the internet and learn, you know,
Oh,
additional
right.
moves that way. I didn't watch the UFC. You know,
Huh.
I was never a fan like that.
Yeah.
But he would find some things, figure it out, and then teach me. And
Very
then
cool.
so I learned a lot. So that's how I got into. I love heel hooks. So
Right.
that's how I got into.
Yeah,
heel
you
hooks
guys
and a lot
kind of came
movies
up with that little path yourself.
way. Yes. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I've learned, you know, that's evolved as we got new gym members as well. Javi, for example, I've taken some move from his game.
Yeah.
Pedro as well. So I like to joke that I only have 2 moves, heel hooks and spider guard, but I can do more. Those are just what I prefer.
You have the Lightfoot launch.
I've got the Lightfoot launch, yes.
That's a double ankle sweep, Dan. Chad used to.
I remember him doing that to me years ago.
Oh,
like
yeah.
10 years ago.
He would just slam people with that thing.
My game hasn't changed. I do the
It's
exact
the
same
same.
thing.
That was the most effective double ankle sweep I've ever seen, man. He really used to hit it with serious gusto. Bang.
Well, I was chubby, John. If I hit it hard enough, I could end up in the mount position. So
You could roll over on top.
I could,
Yeah.
yes.
You get all that chub moving. Mass times acceleration equals force. Yeah. Chub times acceleration equals force. That's very cool. So that kind of reminds me of another power of the tribe. You're learning from other students.
Yes.
So I think a really effective culture, a really effective tribe is not top down. You're always going to have the leader who sort of gives some inspiration in some direction, and then you're going to have that group at the top of the leaders that we have now. We have a more mature academy now, so we have a lot of guys who are coaches and that can introduce things and lead. But I think things have to enter the culture from the tribe members, not just from the leader, and the language that comes in. I don't know who said Lightfoot launch. That's
you.
was that me? I
It's
invented
you.
that. All right, but yeah, all these kind of terminology, the language has to come from different members of the tribe, and the tribe has to tend to the culture to make it the way we want it, so people treat each other right. You know, so I'm not surprised that Jesse taught you something. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I now that I'm thinking about it, I learn a little bit from everybody. It really doesn't matter what belt they're at, right? So I roll with Pedro quite frequently, and he has my number. He beats me at every position. He knows what I'm going to do before I'm going to do it. But I'm still learning something when I go against Pedro. He's pointing out any flaw that I have. I make a slight mistake, he's capitalizing on it. So even though I don't feel like I'm making progress when I'm going against Pedro, I'm doing better against other people after I'm rolling with Pedro.
So you're still learning.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So, and I find when I'm going against teammates that aren't as skilled as me or haven't been training as long as me, I'm getting better at my offense, right? So
Right.
I learned a little bit from everybody I'm rolling with.
Yeah, I tell people a lot. I learned a lot of jiu-jitsu against a guy who wasn't as good as me, he wasn't as strong as me, he wasn't as big as me, but he was a great guy, and I could use my offense and develop my offense. I think there's that sort of adage you hear all the time, iron sharpens iron, and this idea that you have to go against the toughest people all the time. And it's good to go against Pedro, but it's also good to mix it up and go against somebody not as good. If you just went against Pedro all the time, that would probably not be your fastest path to progress.
Right. I had to see, because he literally has my number. He just can beat me in every step of the game, and it's very much a mental game. And he's just knows what I'm going to do before I'm going to do it. But if I wasn't going against other people to measure that I am progressing by when I'm going against him, that could be frustrating. But I can see the progress when I go against other people. I'm like, all right, I sharpened that. And then other people are not getting that. Or maybe he's struggling a little more to get that submission on me or get a better position, and then he has to work on something else. That's how I'm measuring the progress.
Right. Yeah, progress or sense of progress seems to be critical for motivation. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Why are you looking at me for that?
I don't know.
I think the one reason is because I'm always despairing about my
you're
jiu-jitsu.
hypercritical of yourself.
I'm always feeling like, it's always tough for me to feel like that I'm progressing. Because another thing, especially, and I guess this applies to more than jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is a great example where, say you're getting good at one piece of it, like your offense. You can have a day where that doesn't come up, right? Like you're getting better at your guard passing. You could have rolls where you're not passing guard and you don't, you know what I mean? Like you could have a whole day or even a week where you're not seeing what you got better at because it didn't come up in the roll.
Right.
And then for me, like I said, a lot of times I would, feel bummed out, after a roll or, but realistically, you have to be getting better, right? I mean, if you're coming in and rolling against all levels of people.
I think if you're training deliberately and conscientiously, you have to get better. But I don't think you have to get better per se. I'm sure there's people that have been golfing for 30 years that haven't gotten a lick better since they started. So it's not just the time put in.
Right, and it's also that the rate of improvement slows way down because especially, again, it must be true of a lot of things, but jiu-jitsu is a great example. The first year or two is like magical, right? You go I don't know anyone that's not thrilled with the first 2 years of jiu-jitsu where they just come in and you can't do anything and then your progress is so fast. And I think for me, I had to adjust to the idea that then it slows down. Then your improvement becomes in steps, and it's just unrealistic to keep rocketing forward like you do.
I think so. I think jiu-jitsu against an opponent who does not know anything about jiu-jitsu is really effective. So then when you're doing jiu-jitsu against somebody who's also mastered a certain level of jiu-jitsu, then everything's way harder for sure.
Well, I also think your teammates are improving at the same rate as you are. So even though it may appear that it's slowed down, the rate at which you're getting better is slowed down, that you might be misreading that because your peers are also getting better at defending those submissions and whatnot. So that's something that when I said it's been helpful rolling against, and I learned something from all belts at all levels. That's what I mean.
And John used the metaphor, which I've heard before too, which is like you're all boats going down the stream, and like so if your peers are kind of getting ahead of you, you're still progressing, but it doesn't look like
I invented that metaphor, Dan.
Yeah, but I also said that there's times where I'm like, isn't it the same bush on the shore? I'm pretty sure. I'm looking back like
Dan's
I think I see the dock.
I think I'm in an eddy. I've doubled back. I'm actually backing up the river somehow.
I'm in a dinghy shortly behind, and I'm okay with that.
Chad's second opponent, you used that strategy of you fought a really nice. I forget what school he was running.
Kazi Dojo.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Right.
Greg
Great
Williams.
guy. Yeah. Great guy. Really nice guy. But he was the head instructor and the founder of that school, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're like, oh, I'm fighting the head instructor.
Right.
So if
He had
I lose,
four black belts in 4 different disciplines.
he had 4 black belts.
Yes.
What were the black belts? Do you know?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
There was one I didn't know at the time. He was a black belt in judo. I didn't find that out until
wow.
after we fought.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you knew that, you probably wouldn't have fought.
I would have
him,
been
right?
I would have been more intimidated. Yeah. Yeah.
But you came out on top in that fight as well, right?
I did. Yeah.
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 How did that one go? Did you get to finish the rear naked choke?
It's no, he was. I had that sunk. I had the rear naked choke sunk in, and I was squeezing, and he was bright red, but he was holding on. He wasn't going to tap. And
He's
then
a tough guy. Yeah.
He was a tough guy. And one of his teammates told me after the fight, like, we can't tap him either. But he didn't want to tap. He held on, and then he just wore himself out, and it became a TKO.
You got a TKO.
I got a
from
TKO.
Strikes or
Yeah.
something from the back.
Yeah, I transitioned the rear naked choke to a mount, and he was on his back, and I was able to throw strikes that he was unable to answer to, and it was a TKO.
Was that the fight where your dad said you fought like a pit bull?
Possibly.
I remember you saying that. He was like almost disapproving, though. He was like, you fought him like a pit bull, like you got on him and you wouldn't let him go.
Well, your dad was a striker, right?
Yeah, he was.
So he probably didn't like your unmanly form of tackling people and laying on top of them. Stand up and fight like a man, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody yelling that from the crowd that night. I think it was your dad.
That's probably my dad, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, he would always give me crap about that. Like, looks like you're hugging him.
And you're like, I am.
I am. Yep.
John, were you nervous, like for your Chad, like the first fights compared
I was
to
totally
the same
nervous,
learning curve? Like,
but it was Chad, so I figured either we're going to win or Chad will get his butt kicked, and I'm fine with either one of those.
That'll be funny too. I did think of that with Chad. Like we sort of present him as like, well, he's this band nerd, and he's sort of talking like a nice guy, but Chad talks more crap than probably anyone out in the gym. Or
He's the master shit talker. Yeah,
I've seen Chad actually it might have been you, someone actually on Chad's back choking him out, like about to choke him out, and Chad's still talking. Like like it might have been you. I think it might have been you.
That's when he starts to talking. Yeah, like you squeeze like my grandma.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of fun in the gym. Yeah. Sometimes it's strategic. Sometimes, I'm letting them think, if the choke might really be in, or I might be in trouble. But if I can say something funny, they might not think they've got the choke sunk in as deep as it actually is. So sometimes, people will bail on it because I'm talking trash. Other times I'm just having fun, right? So I break the ice with some people at the gym. Like if we'll end up in a north-south type position, I'll say things like, I don't usually do this on a first date. It's always funny.
Don't ever do that in my academy.
It's really funny when it's a new person I'm rolling with.
Good grief. But you know what? It works, though. I realize that trash talking is a very effective competitive strategy because it does 2 things. If you're trash talking, it tells your own nervous system that you're fine. Mm-hmm. So it keeps you from spiraling into panic and losing yourself. You know what I mean? It keeps you playful. So even though you're in a lot of stress, it's going to be better for your mind. And at the same time, you can frustrate the other guy.
Yeah.
So the other guy is giving you his Sunday best, his very best choke, and you're trash talking. They start doubting themselves. Is this really working? And you could give them a stress response where their performance will start to deteriorate.
Yeah.
So I think it's super effective.
And it makes it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's why Chad's doing it, but
oh, it's why he's doing it. Yeah, he may not know it, but it works for him. Definitely. Yeah. He's got 3 techniques: spider guard, heel hook, and trash talk.
Yeah.
And he can hang with almost anybody doing that. So that's pretty good.
You're probably right, because I think now that I think who you're trash talking to, it's usually the bigger guys or the better guys, right? Like I think you're pretty quiet when you're beating somebody, if they're less
you don't do it then. Yeah, it's more a defensive tactic, right?
Yeah, I'm complete opposite of a bully. I'm not trash talking unless I happen to be getting the better of somebody who's better than me. Then I'll do a little trash talk. I'm like, rank me by a whole belt, man. Come on. I'll say something like that as a joke. But typically when I'm trash talking, it's I'm going against somebody better than me, and they're having their way with me,
Yeah.
and that's when I start the trash talking. Absolutely. If I'm quiet, it means I'm struggling.
Now, let me ask you. I bet the fact that you're an undefeated MMA fighter, you're in the corporate world, you work for, can we say who you work for?
Yeah, that's fine.
Who you work for, Microsoft?
Yeah, I work for Microsoft full-time, and then part-time real estate agent at Century 21.
I bet in that corporate Microsoft world, the fact that you're an undefeated pro MMA fighter, guys give you a little bit less flack than they might otherwise.
Yeah, they do. It gives me some confidence, and people can see my cauliflower ear.
Right.
It's a conversation piece. It sometimes takes a little while when I start a new job. I've been with Microsoft about 6 years now, so most of my coworkers know that I was, once a pro MMA fighter. And, it does come up, and they make a lot of jokes about, if we've got to close a big deal, or if our customers is being abrasive or bullyish in any way, like bring in Chad, So,
Chad will choke him out.
Yeah.
Put a Kimura shoulder lock on him until they sign the contract.
Yeah. Of course, I don't realize my only 2 submissions are
heel hook, right? Spider guard.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of them just don't know what to make of it, though? You know what I mean? They're just sort of like, what is that? And you fought, and they're just sort of confused or thrown off? Or
No, because I think people like UFC, I'm like, yeah, it was a local show in New Hampshire, but yeah, same idea, just a little less talent.
So, Chad, as I said, I see you as an individualist.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, it doesn't have to be about the Connors tribe specifically, but just in general, your approach now that you've heard our ideas about the tribe and the benefits of tribe. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So you're right. I kind of do my own thing, John, outside the gym. And the only example I have of the power of the tribe is the Connors tribe, because that's the only tribe I've really, been a part of for the past 12 years. That's all I can really reference in my life, because I am very much an individual in other aspects of my life. I'm not in a team of people that's trying to, work my way up the corporate ladder. I'm trying to do it as an individual. And I'm also a single parent, right, with custody of my kid. So as I'm looking at finances, and I'm looking at how am I going to pay for my oldest daughter, to go to college. She's going to college in August. It's individual effort. So outside of the tribe, very, very much individualist. Now, that being said, we had talked earlier about the power of the tribe. A lot of these scenarios, in my personal life where I'm tackling these on my own, I could talk about these with my friends at the gym. We just got done choking each other out. We're exhausted, sweating. Our backs are against, we're sitting off the mats for a bit, trying to catch our breath. We start talking some of these things out, right? So it's, it's great therapy rolling jujitsu, but it's also great therapy, with some, with the friends that I've made as part of this tribe. The great thing is there's not one personality in the gym. There's not one profession. Everybody's different, right? So everybody's got, a unique background, and it's pretty awesome because we got a little bit of everything in the gym.
Right. You have lawyers, you have other IT guys, law enforcement, firefighters, business owners, professors, Dr. Dan.
Yeah.
I was actually think that was my one nickname that when I was in the boxing gym, they'd kind of sarcastically call me Professor.
They did.
Yeah, they'd sort of be like, Professor, you want to get in the ring? Because I was actually a professor. I was teaching at Wellesley College at the time. Like, another round, Professor? It was always said, like, kind of aggressively.
Did you get several concussions in that gym?
At least one or two. At least.
You told me this story that you're boxing, and you're in the ring. He's in the ring boxing, Chad. I'll tell Dan's story. This is how I remember it. And you heard some lockers falling over in the back of the gym, and then you realized you were on the ground. And it wasn't the lockers falling over. It was just like the world was.
Well, I was in the ring. I was boxing. And it was like a big gymnasium, like a big, like almost like a warehouse.
Yeah.
and I heard this smash, like echoing smash, and I thought like either lockers had fallen, or I thought maybe one of the big air conditioning units had fallen off the ceiling because it made like bang. And I was like, oh, what happened? I went kind of to turn to see what happened. I was like, the mat. I was like, wait, that noise was my head hitting the mat. And then so I jumped back up, and the guy who was boxing was like, still, you know,
he was about to give you some more.
Yeah, he was about to keep, like, it's sort of instinct at that point to be like any normal person that's not used to this to be like, all right, wait, you know, like, that was bad. Like I just, you know, it just knocked out or like.
It reminds me of that. Wow. What was that movie, Inception, where the whole world just like falls over?
Yeah. Like Doctor Strange. But so then I'm trying to act. I always had like that poker face, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. You know, maybe someone said something like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yep." That was also my problem in the boxing gym. I automatically said yes whenever anyone said any, like it was like, "You want to go another round?" I'd be like, "Yep." like you okay? Yep. Is that fine? You're fine? Yeah. Like, and there would actually be times where I'd say to myself, like, if that guy asked me to spar today, I'm not going to. You know, I'm not going to do it because he beats me senseless. And then he'd be like, hey, you want to do a round? I'd be like, yep. And I'd walk to the, and I'd be getting up on the ring like, why did I say yes? And then I'd make it through the round or 2 rounds and be like relatively unhurt. And I'd be like, thank God, getting out of the ring. And he'd be like, one more round? I'd be like, sure. Like I'd get back in. So it was that guy, my nemesis, who was like, who knocked me, you know, flash knockout. And he's like, you good to keep going? And I'm like, yeah. But I had like all adrenaline, and I was like, what just happened? You know, it's a horrible feeling too. To like, you know, like I said, every instinct is like, all right, take a second, you know, sit down. But
that's,
you know,
the difference between jiu-jitsu and boxing. That's really not going to happen to you in jiu-jitsu. I think that's the difference between Chad and you. Yeah. Chad would never have found himself in that circumstance, would you, Chad?
No. I got 2 things that I would have done differently, I think. One, I will say no to you know, certain people for that final round, because I do think some people wait until I'm tired before they ask me to roll. And then the second thing is my style is strong basics. I don't do anything fancy, but the spider guard I've gotten pretty good at, and the heel hook. So even if I'm exhausted, I can hold my opponent in a position where they can't do a lot of damage to me, so that I can basically stall 3 rounds that you know you're talking about.
But I also think, really, again, back to what Chad getting in the ring, what was so impressive about it, one is that it was so early. So, you know, he didn't have, you know, 25 examples of other people fighting. And
yeah, that speaks to his individualist personality, where he was stepping up and like, yeah, I'm going to go do this.
But I think people don't realize, like, a lot of times people think, oh, that guy in the ring, he must be some kind of animal, or like, and the fighters themselves feed into it. They'll be like, I like getting hit, and you know, people watch and just go, well, that guy, he's not scared, and he's just some kind of other kind of creature to get in there. And Chad was very openly like, I'm challenging myself, you know, like
I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
But I knew I could do it.
Yeah. And actually, just to tag this on, but you know, just more credit, and along the same lines is, didn't you also run a marathon?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's part of a pattern. Like you just keep facing, you know, things that seem unpleasant or scary to you. You face them. You know, from the bullying story to going to the gym to public speaking, and then running a marathon too. I think to me, it's all of a piece.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Well, there's a reason I did both the martial arts and running. I had back surgery. I had a herniated disc back in 2003, and I had the surgery for it. And the doctor that did the surgery said, I don't want you running anymore. I don't want you doing martial arts. I was doing, I don't know, some Okinawan karate or something back then. And he said, I don't want you doing either. And it's just, there's something wired in my brain. As soon as somebody tells me not to do something, I'm going to prove I can do it. And so that was my motivation for doing that. So I never expected it would take me to fighting in a cage professionally or running the Boston Marathon, but you know, I've done both. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And I think the story is about transformation. I think if people keep approaching these challenges, whether you win or lose, like even if you lost one or both of those fights, you still would have transformed yourself, and you would have been a better person for having undertaken the challenge. And I think, you know, of course, especially if you're going into a fight, you really want to win. I mean, losing an MMA fight can be a really unpleasant experience. So you want to win, of course. I mean, your first fight wasn't that pleasant anyways, and you won. So you definitely want to win.
Bloodiest fight of the night.
Right, but if you have it in the back of your head, that long-term transformation, then every challenge you undertake is going to be a positive experience,
Right.
win or lose.
And I use that experience. So when I'm getting up to do a presentation, sometimes I'll get nervous if there's,
Right.
I stand up on a stage and I didn't realize there was going to be 100 or 200 people in the audience. I'm like, I start to get nervous. And that's what I think about. Like, you fought in a cage, against another professional fighter in front of over 1,000 people. If you can do that, you can
Right.
do this. That's literally what I'm telling myself.
That's a great mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Delivering a presentation is a heck of a lot easier
Yeah.
than getting your face punched in front of 1,000 people who are cheering, half of them cheering, at least half,
Yeah, at least
probably
half.
more cheering for the other guy.
Oh yeah. He had a big crew with him. Yeah.
All right, man. I think we're going to wrap it up now. That was an awesome interview, Chad Lightfoot. Thank you for coming in, man. I really appreciate it. You're one of my favorite students. Of course, you're an OG from the way back 2006. Glad to see you in the gym today. I'm glad you're part of our tribe. You'll always be a key member. It was. I really appreciate you coming in. It really meant a lot to me for you to come in. This is our second podcast, Chad.
Thanks, Coach.
So I would like to say you're my favorite, but you're close.
I'm close. I appreciate that.
And the other guys weren't available today.
Yeah. I appreciate that too.
But that's it. Power of the Tribe with John Connors and my co-host, Dan Robin. Dan, the man with no nickname, Robin.
The professor.
That's it. And we'll be back next week with another great podcast.